Hey everybody, it's Doug Treiber from Treiber Labs. Just going to do a quick video here on some of the equipment that you need to do off-camera flash at weddings, portrait sessions, anything else you want to do. This will be part one of a multi-series that I'm going to do. Just waiting to find a venue to get into to do the next part of the series, where I'm going to show everybody how to set the flashes up, where I put them, distances, everything like that. Alright, so equipment needed. Obviously you have to have your flashes, and you need your trigger, and your camera, obviously, and the camera I don't have here because we don't need it for this. Okay, so the flashes that I use are Flashpoint, lithium ion R2 zoom flashes, and these are the TTL versions, even though I never use TTL at all for anything. I never use an on-camera flash really for anything either, except for crazy dance shots and stuff, like at a reception at the end of the night when people are going nuts. So that's what these look like. And these are the lithium ion version, so they don't take AA. They have the big lithium ion battery pack, and they have a charger, and they're pretty cheap actually if you want to buy more batteries. But essentially these will last a ton longer. You can get over 1,000 flashes probably, if you're not on full power, out of these lithium batteries, which is great because obviously you're not spending money on AA batteries, and then you're not throwing the AA batteries out or having to recharge a million of them because they don't last that long and stuff like that. And the other thing you're going to need is the trigger. Okay, so this is what goes on your camera. Okay, and this is also a Flashpoint, and this is the R2 Pro. Okay, and I just got these, and we just started using them. I was using Godox flashes before that were lithium batteries. We just had like Photic triggers or whatever. So the trigger and the flash doesn't really matter as long as you can be completely manual on the flash and then, you know, trigger it via the on-camera trigger. So it makes no difference what brand you use or anything like that, and you can read reviews online and people will discuss for days about these things, about different brands, how well they work, things like that. I got these Flashpoints because they're pretty cheap. A bunch of my friends use them and they really like them, and they have all kinds of bells and whistles and everything like that that I'll probably never end up using, but you never know, doesn't hurt to have it. Okay, the next thing is the stand. Okay, so I use backdrop stands. This is what my flash will go on, and these have a super wide base. Obviously you can see how big the legs are. Okay, and I can spread these out, put them down. I don't care if people see them at weddings, because they're generally not going to be in the photo. So I want people to know that they're there, and I want big stands because if somebody accidentally kicks it or trips on it, obviously they're drinking, it has less of a chance of falling over. So these are huge backdrop stands like you'd use for a photo booth backdrop or in a studio to hang a backdrop or whatever. So I use these. I think it goes up probably to 12 feet. And again, these are Luma Pro. I don't know what that is. I think I got these on Amazon. They should be pretty cheap. I mean, you shouldn't have to pay more than $25 to $50 for a stand. Anything more than that, it's just crazy. I mean, Cheetah makes some fancy stands that have like springs in them where you put it down and it opens up, etc., whatever. These are fine for me because they get thrown in the car, get banged around, rocks, outside, all the other good stuff. Okay, and the last thing you're going to need is the flash attachment, which goes up here. And this is basically just a cold shoe adjustable attachment for your flash, which the flash would go on like such. Screw this down, lock that down, obviously, and then there you go, it's on there. You can put that up on the stand and it's ready to go. This fits a variety of different sizes, whatever you got, so it should be fine. And this also is adjustable, so I can adjust the angle that the flash sits at on the actual stand, which is important too when you're setting things up, and I'll go over that in the other video when I'm actually in the venue showing everybody how to do the things that we do. Right. A couple things about the triggers and the flashes. I'm in all manual, so when I turn my flash on, and these were more difficult to set up because basically there's a ton of stuff that they can do. TTL stuff. It can have an optical trigger where essentially if a flash goes off, the sensor sees the flash and triggers this flash, etc. Basically, all I want it to do is when I turn my trigger on, I want it to trigger this flash. So I'm pressing the test button and it's going off. That's all I want it to do. On this trigger that it's on my camera, with these newer ones, I have the ability to change the power of the flash, the zoom, and then switch between groupings and things like that. It gets really complicated. You can have A group, B group, C group. You can have different channels, all these good things if you want to have like a million flashes set up. I don't really know why, but I guess if you were at an event or something where there were multiple people using triggers, you would want to be on separate channels so that the other people weren't setting your stuff off and you weren't setting their stuff off, etc. So it takes a little bit of reading in the manual to get these set up correctly, and each flash and each trigger is different. Some are analog where there's just little switches on it, and some are digital like this one where it has a readout on there of everything that you would want to do, all the channels, all the groupings, all that good stuff. So that's beyond the scope of what I'm going to do. You know, people can figure that out for themselves, how they want to get them set up and all that good stuff. But generally you want it trigger to trigger the flash, and that's all. If you have one that can change the power and the zoom, cool. That should be pretty standard, how to switch those things around once you get the hang of it. Okay, so we have the flash, trigger, stand, and the adapter for the stand that the flash goes on. Camera settings. Now I'm going to go over this more in my next video, but I'll give you a quick little rundown of what we normally do. This is super simple. Okay, so turn your camera on when you're getting things set up. Generally speaking, we're at anywhere between 400 and 1600 ISO. Our aperture will start around f4, and our shutter speed will be around 1/125th of a second or so. Okay, cameras have a built-in limit on what you can do with regular flash of 1/250th of a second, so you don't want to go above that or you're going to get a line which basically is like above the flash sync speed, so the flash is going off quicker than the shutter and mirror and everything is moving out of the way. So you're going to get a line, a black line or a dark line in your photo, which you don't want there. Some of the flashes have high speed sync, which you can turn on. Basically it's just like a super fast flash at a lower power, or a strobe effect almost, that will be able to have a higher shutter speed if you want to shoot out in the sun or something like that where you can't bring your shutter speed down low enough, but that's a completely separate conversation. So again, ISO 400 to 1600, aperture f4, shutter speed 125 or so, and you can dial in from there. On the camera, the aperture is going to control the strength of the flash. Okay, so if you start at f4, flash is too strong, you can stop it down a little bit. If the flash isn't strong enough, you can open it up a little bit. This is also something you can play around with for depth of field, whatever your depth of field requirements are. Generally speaking, we stay stopped down a little bit, at least f4 or so, because we like to have our subjects in focus, and we can do more with the depth of field, tricking the eye with the light that we do rather than just shooting wide open or something like that. And it also gives you a little bit more leeway for keepers and stuff like that. I shoot on servo mode all the time, so I hold down the button, put the focus point where I want it, camera tracks, boom, 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 shoot away, no problem, even in the dark, inside, no issue. The flash settings, okay? We keep our flashes on 50mm zoom, and that's with the flash head, and it'll zoom from 24, which is a really wide spread, to like 200mm, which is a really tight spread. So again, this is all up to you. You can experiment with this, but we keep ours at 50. Seems to work well for what we want to do. Flash power. I generally start out around 1/16 power on the flashes, and you can kind of dial it in from there. If your flashes are really far away from your subject, you're going to need to maybe go up to 1/16 or 1/8 power. If they're really close, you might need to back it down even further, and things like that. So that's completely up to you, and these are things that you can kind of play with to dial them in. But generally speaking, 50mm zoom, 1/16 to start out with on the flash, and then you can go ahead and give that a test wherever you're shooting. And it's nice too when you shoot a lower flash power, you can shoot faster. So if there's two people shooting, you and a second shooter or whatever, you both can be shooting at the same time, and the recycle time on the flash is super quick. So you can both, you know, boom, 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 shoot really fast, no issue, no missed shots, nothing like that. If you shoot on 1-to-1, it's going to take a second for that flash to recycle. So it's just something to keep in mind. Also, why we shoot on a slightly lower power. Okay, so that's pretty much it. There's not much to it. That's basically the general setup, the equipment you need. In the next video, I'm going to talk about where to place your flash stands in a venue for dancing, cake cutting, you know, things like that. I'm also going to talk about some of the physics of the light a little bit, fall off that you'll get from the flashes depending on where your subjects are, the inverse square law, which basically governs the distances that you're going to be using with your flashes. And sounds like a lot of math. It's not. You will have to understand it, but it's not math that you're going to need to be doing in your head. It's pretty simple, especially when you're kind of running and gunning, which is what we do. You just need to understand about the distances and the power of the light, and if you move your flashes away or closer, what's going to happen with the light and how strong the light is. I'll talk about how to set up shooting zones on your dance floor, so that basically you can get your flashes set up, and there should be an area where people are where you're not going to have to change settings at all, generally speaking. Okay, you're going to be able to move around and shoot, and as long as your subject stays in a given area, you should be good to go. You shouldn't have to change anything. And then I'll just show you how we move flashes and get them set up, and angles, and everything like that. So that about does it. If you want to check out examples of what we do, you can go to our site, dougtriber.com. And if you want to check out any of my editing stuff, because I also edit full-time at Triber Labs, you can go to triberlabs.com, and I'll have all that info, the links in the description, and I'll also put in the rundown of the camera settings we use and the flash settings we use, as well as the equipment, if you want to start playing around with things or just get going on some of this before I do the next video. All right, cool. Thanks.